Welcome to the show this afternoon, Sarah Sativa. Lovely to have you with us.
And thank you for inviting me on. It's great to be here with you today.
So we're going to be talking about cannabis oil and various aspects of it. How did you get involved in such a topic? It's not exactly your everyday topic that people talk about, is it?
Well, I got involved in it a while ago now. Well, to be fair, I've always been interested in health. I've got a degree in biology. It is freshwater and marine, but we did do a lot of human biology too. I've always been interested in herbs and the medicinal properties of them. And to be fair, I've used cannabis medicinally since about the age of, well, I won't say my age because it's very, very young, but I used it for period pain, sleeping, anxiety for quite a while myself. And back in, I think it was 2013, I was doing an internet radio show, and even though I've always known about the medicinal properties of cannabis, I actually got to learn more because the part of the radio show was with Rick Simpson, and we used to do it twice a week. I think we did about 24 radio shows altogether, and we'd have a phone in. And on that phone in, people would ring in and say that they're using cannabis to treat various medical conditions. And the results that they were getting were fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So I found that really, really interesting. And it ticked all of my boxes, my interest in cannabis, myself. Also, and I have admitted I have grown cannabis in the past, when I used in the past for my own medical purposes. I have said this a few times. So yeah, and so I knew that it had medicinal properties, but I didn't quite know to the full extent. We was getting people ringing up who had had cancer, and their cancer had gone into remission. Some of these had used other treatments alongside as well, and some hadn't as so much. And so then we ended up actually organising a project which didn't quite work out as what we had originally hoped, for various reasons, which I'm not going to go into right now, but it is all public. And over the last, I would say, I'm not very good at years, but over the last few years, I've actually just become more independent, and I work on my own, really. I've got my own page, Sarah Sativa. I've got my other a website, Sarah Sativa, is my web page as well. And basically, so it's basically stemmed from my fascination of wanting to learn more and more and more about the plant, really, and how it works best, and stuff like that.
So you mentioned Rick Simpson. So you were actually participating in a radio show with the Rick Simpson.
Yes, I was. Yes.
Well, he's world famous, isn't he, for talking about and helping people to deal with their cancer using a particular type of oil which is stronger than CBD. It has THC in it. So what kinds of things was he saying on the radio show?
Rick has got a really good way of putting across the message. Lots of people actually listen a lot to him because he really has helped get the word out. We were at the time, we did actually help him become one of the first Google searches when you do a CEO. We actually helped him become that because we shared his stuff so much at the time. But he was mainly talking about the medicinal side and the political side. I don't really do the political side, to be fair, because just because I just concentrate more on the medical, really, and the research, and looking at the littoral research and things like that. But that's what he used to talk to, and he used to talk. Like I said, we would have phone in, so people would come in and ask questions. But Rick's not the only person we've interviewed. We've interviewed Jeff Ditchfield before. I've interviewed lots of other medical people that use cannabis medicinally, from your normal person who you would never expect to use cannabis, to people who are quite prominent activists. So it was a very interesting journey, those few years of doing the radio for me.
So Sarah Sativa is your sort of trading style, as it were, but it's also a name of a not a brand. What do you call it? A breed. What do they call it with plants? A type of strain. Yeah. It's a strain.
Well, it's not a strain. They say there's Sativa rudialis and indica, but this is really not really. People are discovering more and more this isn't necessarily true. But sativa is in theory supposed to be the more uplifting one. Indica is supposed to be the more sedative one, and rudialis is your hemp. Your hemp is based. They're all the same. They're all cannabis plants. When you actually extract these plants into an oil, which is basically mainly what my focus of learning is about, is cannabis oil. And when you actually, and you can see these test certificates on my web page and also on my Facebook page, you can see that a full extract cannabis oil, full spectrum is a term that's often used. And this term full spectrum brings a lot of confusion to people. Full spectrum is basically whole plant. It's basically got all the cannabinoids in it, from THC to CBD to CBN and to THCV, all of them, and THCG. But that is what a full spectrum oil is. But they have different percentage of cannabinoids. Like some will have a really high THC and others will have a really high CBD. When I'm using my CBD, when I'm doing my CBD business, I'm going for the more what would be termed the rudialis.
And remind us what that one does.
That's more like industrial hemp. And it's basically, if you look on my web, on my pages, you'll see that I have one that was 72. My latest oil was 72% CBD and it had 4% THC. I can legally sell this in the UK once it's been made into products. You cannot sell that in the UK when it's above 0.2% THC. So there's a lot of restrictions as to what you can legally do in countries like the UK. But I also work in Spain and work with some of the clubs out here, and I use my THC oils in the clubs in Spain. In Spain, they have different laws in regard to privacy. So you can use THC. There's a lot of associations over here. You are legally allowed to grow 3 plants each, and this is part of the reason why I live in Spain, due to my work and due to my interest in high THC strains as well.
Right. When you say clubs, you don't mean nightclubs, do you? You mean cannabis clubs, I think.
Yeah, cannabis clubs. Well, they started out as what you would term an association, and an association is basically run by their members. But over the time, they've evolved more to like cannabis clubs, which are actually owned by people. And when they were just associations, the members could vote in the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. The Spanish style is also been incorporated, of the associations, it's also been incorporated into clubs in England. There's a lot of clubs in England now that run on the model, the Spanish model.
Right. Okay. So are this for people who are using it medicinally or recreationally or both?
And most of the clubs do aim at recreational, to be fair, but you can buy these medicinal oils from the clubs. But what I mean by medicinal oil is an oil that's been tested, an oil is normally full extract cannabis oil. You normally get it either in a dropper bottle, a syringe, but any cannabis can be used medicinally, really. So there's no real difference apart from that. I would say that you're best off with a test certificate. And in the UK, it's not always possible to get a test certificate. So as long as you get your oil from a good source or you make it yourself, then that's great. And my website, though, is designed for people really in any country who wants to go on this journey of using cannabis oil, to try and put some guidelines and some advice so that people know what they're doing, they know they're not getting ripped off, and they know how to make, say the things that they need. They know to look for testing, why testing's good. They know how to begin dosing, because cannabis oil itself is very, very strong. For example, if you have some weed, it can be anything between, say, 60 to 24% THC, whereas if you have oil, it can be anywhere between 50 to 80 or 85, 86%. My highest is 86% THC. So you can imagine, you know, there's somebody that uses cannabis a lot may actually still get quite high from using an oil. And when people are very, very ill and their livers aren't functioning very well and things like that, you want to make sure that you are going up on a slow dose that your body can tolerate, not just the high, but that your body can tolerate too.
Yeah, that's really important points there, isn't it? Absolutely. A lot of people say to me that, oh, I'm not going to take anything like that because it makes me wappy. Well, it would do if they not taken it properly. So yeah, make it. I remember going back a few years when I took it medicinally. I made my own, as I think you know, and for a full extract, and that was an interesting journey. You said about people who you know, you would never think would use it. I was in the police a few years ago. I was brought up, my dad was a policeman, and I was a special for a while. So it's sort of, you know, it tickles me really to think, you know, that's what I did, but, you know, it helped me to get through. So I know from personal experience how beneficial it is. So when you say yours is your highest is 86%, so that's what you're legally allowed to do that in Spain and other countries, but not the UK. Is that right? Have I understood that correct?
Well, what I do, behind closed doors in private, as long as I'm not profiteering, and then legally in Spain you're allowed to keep private. That's how the clubs work, because they're behind two closed doors.
Okay, that's interesting. So
And that's Spain has very strict privacy laws. You can even have brothels legally, is behind two locked doors, because
right.
basically the idea is that people can't just walk in and get offended or get harmed, or do you know what I mean? That
Yes.
And you can apply for licenses to actually grow in the UK as well. If you and not in the UK, in Spain, if you're growing for clubs, you can fill out forms, and there's quite a lot that goes into it, really.
Okay, well that's good though, really, isn't it, for safety purposes?
Yes, and you have to keep away from schools and things like that.
Yes, yeah, common sense, really.
Yes, definitely.
So what?
But if you grow a plant in Spain's balcony and it's in full view, it's classed as protesting.
Oh, okay, interesting. So what kind of
And
conditions
you're
is it
not allowed.
useful for?
Cannabis, I'm learning more and more all the time, to be fair, about what kind of conditions it's useful for, from gout to cancer to MS to diabetes to high blood pressure to asthma to aches and pains, bad back, insomnia, loss of appetite, weight control as well, hormonal conditions, anything. So many things it can help with, because it acts within homeostasis, and homeostasis is responsible for keep maintaining any of the body's, you know, the body's things that move, basically. So temperature, so it keeps your temperature at the right temperature, 37, so you don't overheat, you know, your core temperature. Sleep patterns, it helps with pain because of the way it uses on the pain receptors as well, so it helps with pain. CBD helps with inflammation. The different cannabinoids seem to help with different things. So one oil can work for something, and then another oil may not work so well for that. A one-to-one oil may not help somebody sleep quite so much as a full THC oil, for example. But for other people, a one-to-one oil might work perfectly well for. I'm very sensitive to THC. Everybody responds differently, and that's why when you do start on your cannabis journey, that you start on a low dose. I always start with dropper bottles these days. I did used to start with capsules, but I use a dropper bottle, and each drop of a 10% oil is about 5 mg. And so if you start really low and you are really sensitive to THC, you're not going to have that bad an experience with just a one-to-one nice gentle oil. Whereas I've had people with my 84% or 86% oil start on one drop and been stuck in a chair for 4 hours. So one nice, it all really, whereas other people they would love it and it would be great. They'd get on and do their normal everyday to-day things pain-free. Some people find 1, 2, 3 drops helps. Other people will find 4, 5, 6 drops helps, or they prefer cats because they need more drops. Everybody's endocannabinoid system is different, so you have to find out what works for you. And that, like I say, I always start, especially people who've never touched cannabis before, on a nice one-to-one oil, because it's a gentle oil. It's got CBD, which helps with anxiety and stress. So some people can get really anxious and they can have heart palpitations, and if you're anxious and you're having heart palpitations and you're getting scared and you're not very well and all your fears are coming to the surface, cannabis can be a terrible experience if you start too high a dose and you've never done it before and you don't know what's happening with you. So basically my website is to try and prevent those kind of scenarios happening for people in countries where there isn't that much information. There isn't really that many people there who know what they're doing to guide you through. There's so many people who are desperately turning to cannabis on the black market, and they're so scared anyway, and they don't even know where to begin. So that's what I try and do, is to give them a place to begin.
So where is your website? Where can people find some information to get them started, Sarah?
My website is www.sarahsativa.com.
Right, and that's SARAHSATIVA.
Yes.
Great. Okay, that's lovely. That's really helpful. Thank you for spending time with us this afternoon, Sarah. Much appreciated.
No worries. My CBD site is www.sarahsativacbd.com, and my CBD products are going to be launched very soon. And I will be at Product Earth on stall free. If anybody's interested in coming to meet me, that are going to Product Earth.
Product Earth is what country is that in?
It's in the UK. It's in Warwickshire. It's in Coventry. If you put Product Earth into the Google, I haven't got the details with me, but if you put it into Google, Product Earth 2019, it's the country's biggest cannabis and hemp expo. It's on the end of August, of the weekend of the 25th. So if you are interested in cannabis and hemp, and you are interested in learning more, and you are interested in meeting people within the industry, then it's very worthwhile going down to that event. There's day passes and there's weekend passes, there's live music, and there's all sorts. There's a bit of something there for everyone. So if you just fancy a day trip out, then it's great for you to do that. But if you want a whole weekend, it's good for that as well.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. It's not a very good line, Sarah, so I'm going to love and leave you. Thank you again for your time. And I'm sure we'll be speaking very soon again.
Okay, thank you very much, Elaine. Thank you for inviting me on. I've really enjoyed it.
You're welcome.